Hello, welcome. Thank you for coming. My name is Tracy Erickson. I handle developer relations for Union, and I'm really excited to share to you today what we've been working on the last year or so in Union. We have several announcements for you, as well as new games to share, and some insight into how we operate. One of our most frequent requests is for information on what we look at when we're evaluating games for Union, so I'll shed some light on that process. 2 years ago, at Unite 10 in Montreal, Union was born. What started as a small idea to help developers take their Unity-authored games to new platforms has evolved into something much bigger. Union does more than port games. We're about getting great games the attention that they deserve. We're about reaching gamers on new platforms. We're about supporting developers like Datalord. From their native Argentina, this talented team have built an impressive selection of arcade games. Most recently, their free-to-play sensation Running Fred has been downloaded more than 6 million times across iOS and Android devices. Not to forget the games released this week, thanks to Union, for BlackBerry Playbook. Today, I'm proud to reveal Fred's latest adventure is coming to Union. Games like Super Falling Fred are exactly what Union is about. Top-notch production values, satisfying gameplay, and of course, creativity. Unity developers are among the most talented and innovative in this industry, and we're focused on supporting you with new distribution opportunities. To date, more than 50 Unity developers have partnered with Union, creating a diverse portfolio surpassing 125 titles. Collectively, these games have been downloaded an amazing 100 million times. It's easy to understand why these games are so popular. 4 have been #1 on the iOS App Store, 9 have been in the top 10 of that store, and we've helped propel 3 games to the top spot on BlackBerry App World. And if you look at last night's Unity Award nominees, there were 6 games, 6 Union games that were nominated, including Shadowgun and Super Crossfire for Golden Cube. These are fantastic games, and we couldn't be more proud to be working with these developers. But there are new and unannounced platforms out there that would benefit from having such killer games. Often it's tough for developers to seek out these opportunities, though, for a litany of reasons, both technical and operational. And this is exactly why Union was created. Similar to how Unity has revolutionized and democratized game development by enabling anyone, anywhere, to create immersive 3D games, so too is Union democratizing how games are distributed. As a Unity developer, You already appreciate the power of multi-platform distribution. With Unity, you're free to make games for more than half a dozen platforms. And as you heard in the keynote this week, we're now adding 2 more with Windows 8 and Windows Phone 8. But what about new platforms? What about smart TVs? What about tablets that are not the iOS or Android? In addition to the technical hurdles, most developers are at a disadvantage competing with established publishers in the space that can easily commit resources to those platforms. Union levels that playing field. Representing several dozen Unity developers, we're able to negotiate distribution deals and work with platforms that would otherwise be unavailable to our developers. And here's how we do it. Entrusted with a wide variety of Unity-authored games, we engage platform partners at a variety of levels about bringing our games to their platform. Through discussion and evaluation, we select titles that we feel are going to best fit the platform. And as a developer, you receive 80% of those revenue that is derived from sales of that game. Union handles the work of adapting your game to these platforms. And as of August, we're working with 7 unique platforms, including Intel Android-based devices and Lenovo TV. And up here, you can see that we're supporting BlackBerry Playbook, Nokia's N9 device. We've worked with Sony on the Xperia Play. And as you probably have seen earlier this week at our table, we have a really great partnership with LG. And we have had our first games that have launched, which we're pretty excited about. We've been working on it for quite a while. In short, Union does the work of adapting your game to new platforms, then splits the revenue with you 80-20. To illustrate just how powerful an ally Union can be, consider the story of Super Crossfire. Created by the amazingly talented Luke Schneider of Radian Games, Super Crossfire started out as an Xbox Live indie arcade game. And from there, he ported it to Windows PC, Mac, and then iOS through Chilingo. With each new platform came new work that was taking Luke's time away from designing other games. But by joining Union, Luke let us worry about the details and work of distributing to new and emerging platforms. As of today, we've released 2 versions of Super Crossfire, one for BlackBerry Playbook and the other for Roku, with a release for LG smart TVs and select Android devices coming soon. Plus, work is well underway on adapting Luke's other titles to Union platforms. By the way, all of Union's activities are separate from Luke's own personal development schedule, which is great because this frees up his creative energies to work on more important tasks, like designing great new games that he can then bring to iOS and to PC, and then work with us and Union to bring it to emerging platforms. As a gamer myself, this is exactly what I want developers like you guys to be doing, building cool games and not worrying about scaling your UI. Super Crossfire, though, is just one of several games that we're working with in Union. Game Resort, an accomplished studio behind iOS and Android hits Downhill Bowling 2, and more recently Probe the Humans, has been working with us since day one. And I'm happy to announce that this partnership is going to be continuing with their newest game, Stupid Zombies 2. Sequel to the iOS and Android original, which has been downloaded an amazing 5 million plus times, Stupid Zombies 2 is straightforward physics puzzle play with zombies. It's pretty hard to top that. Look forward to more details from Game Resort in the coming weeks. Of course, it may not necessarily come as a surprise to you that we are working with another physics puzzler, Burn the City. And though this physics puzzle game doesn't have any birds, like Rovio's game, Burn the City does share one thing in common with Rovio's title, and that's that they've both been #1 on BlackBerry App World. This is really one of my favorite stories to talk about in Union because it really does feature one of our smallest developers, Josh Brown, who is just a great guy. Has been working on games on his own for a while, contracting out with other developers, and approached us about getting the game onto BlackBerry Playbook and some other platforms in Union, and we said yes. We thought, Burn the City has a certain charm to it, and we were right. It rocketed to the top of the charts, and we couldn't be happier. Not only did Union make this possible, but Burn the City has actually benefited from the top of the chart buzz that they received from BlackBerry App World, and to date have more than 1.2 million downloads across iOS and Android. One of the newest developers that I'm very excited to say is joining Union is Stolen Couch Games, which has really built a reputation. I don't know how many of you play iOS games. I'm sure there's many of you. But their games, Kids vs. Zombies, and more recently, their puzzle game, Ichi, have been highly regarded. They're great games. And this talented group are hard at work on their next title, Castaway Paradise. It's a clever blend of gameplay elements, exploration, simulation, social interaction. It's a bit like Animal Crossing meets Farmville. This colorful game promises to appeal to both casual and core gamers alike, and you can anticipate hearing more about Castaway Paradise in the coming weeks. I'm really excited to be showing first gameplay footage, public gameplay footage of the game. One of the most common questions that we get asked is how to submit a game to Union. And to date, we've been doing this via email. It's not an ideal system, and we feel like we can get this job done in a better way. So I'm actually really proud today to announce the Union Developer Portal. This autumn, you'll be able to register with Union and submit a game through our new online portal. You'll have the ability to upload essential files for our evaluation process, including game builds, screenshots, video footage, and accompanying documentation. When your game is accepted into Union, you'll be able to coordinate publishing materials through this portal, as well as game builds and game files. And it's currently in beta. We'll start rolling out to current Union developers with a public launch later in autumn. The second most common question that we receive is how we go about evaluating titles that have been submitted. In other words, what makes a game a good fit for Union? It's a good question because not every game is ideal for adapting to new platforms. I'll tell you, the very first thing that we look at when we're evaluating a game is whether it's fun. It's the most important thing. If your game isn't fun, people aren't going to want to play it. Second, we look at the production values. The most successful games combine phenomenal gameplay with a polished presentation. Graphics alone aren't enough, but gameplay on its own isn't enough either. You have to have both in order to meet the demands of today's gamers. Third, we look at the appeal. What sort of appeal does the game have with various demographic groups? For example, will this shooter appeal to a Roku gamer? Or will free-to-play titles, social mobile titles work on BlackBerry Playbook? These are the sort of questions that we're thinking about when we look at a game that's coming into Union, because we want to make sure that we find the right fit for the platform and for the game. While it's almost always possible to technically squeeze a game into a device, it's always vital to ask questions about the realistic prospects of that game in the marketplace. It doesn't benefit anyone if the game doesn't sell, and so we work hard to pair the right games with the right platforms. There's also technical considerations, too. Our main concerns involve UI and controls. Simple, scalable user interface design is a win-win. It keeps things straightforward for you. As a developer, it ensures simplicity for the gamer who's playing the game, and it's great for us because it means that it makes our jobs a lot easier when we're adapting your game to new platforms. Encoding your game to a specific resolution or aspect ratio makes things particularly difficult, especially if we're trying to adapt an iOS or Android game onto a much larger smart TV screen. When it comes to controls, simplicity reigns supreme too. Games with complex heads-up displays, layered menu systems, or complicated touch controls that make the adaptation process much more difficult. For instance, a tower defense game on an iPad may have multiple virtual buttons that line the bottom of the screen for each of the different tower types. Now, we can map that to a motion controller, but as a user, it's not necessarily the most enjoyable experience to have to be moving the remote and trying to activate buttons that are lining the bottom of the screen. There has to be a lot of UI work and control work that gets done to make that feel native on the device, to make it feel as though it belongs on the TV, rather than it feeling as though it was taken from a touch screen and simply dropped onto the device. So when it comes to controls, we love games like Super Falling Fred. Another one that comes to mind, Snuggle Truck from Alchemy Labs. Really great games where the control mechanics are very simple, they're intuitive, and because of those reasons, it makes it easy to adapt them to a variety of different control mechanisms on emerging platforms. Truthfully, these design considerations are things that are going to benefit your game anyway. Keeping the controls simple and intuitive is going to ensure that on your initial iOS or Android or console or PC release, that the controls are rock solid. At the end of the day, we're about supporting talented Unity developers. As we continue in our mission to democratize games distribution, we hope you partner with us and provide us with the feedback necessary to make Union better equipped to help you. With the addition of new devices to our ever-growing list of platforms, our announced developer portal that will make it even easier to work with us, and a bevy of fantastic new games, the momentum behind Union is noticeably strong. I just want to thank everyone for being here today, but before I let you go and answer some questions, there's one more thing I'd like to talk about. I am very, very, very pleased to announce that 3D Attack is working with Union on bringing platformer The Other Brothers to new platforms. Whoops. And that's it. I'm happy to take questions. We have a lot of time left, which was planned. I wanted to make sure we had time to take questions, as I'm sure there are plenty. So we'll go ahead and start fielding them now. Yeah? No questions?
Hello. Yeah, I just have a general question. Actually, I had this question for these 2 years when Union started working. And can you give any information about numbers? Like, there is a game that, let's say, got 1 million on iOS, let's say, then 200,000 on Android. And what's potential to get revenue on using Union? Does this question make sense?
Yeah, so you're asking, the question is, what's the opportunity in Union to generate revenue on these platforms? Right. Yep. It's a really good question. What I would say is that they're emerging for a reason. These are new devices, they're new platforms. So often the case is that they're starting from scratch. There's no users. So the opportunity is less in, I would say, in terms of generating revenue and more in terms of exposure, in terms of being there in a market very early, which is historically a very powerful tool for developers in terms of being able to secure their own spot in a marketplace. Early iOS developers who are on the App Store found great success, and we would like that sort of success to our Union developers to have that same sort of success on BlackBerry Playbook, on LG Smart TV. That's the LG Smart TVs are a particularly interesting case because LG has been a really supportive partner and has really gone out of their way to promote the games. There's going to be a lot of marketing push coming in the next couple months from LG. Frisbee Forever is going to be featured in a televised commercial. I mean, this is some big stuff, things that an indie developer is just not going to have access to. So while there is, obviously, we're operating on a 80-20 revenue share, and there is there's revenue out there to be made. We feel that the biggest advantage, the largest appeal to our developers is essentially getting to these markets early and establishing a foothold.
Okay, thank you.
There's a question back there.
Thank you. Do you plan to? You said you are going to make a portal for developer. Are you planning to make a portal for people to discover Union games on a web portal or something?
So we don't currently have any plans to do anything like that. We're definitely actively pursuing new platforms to distribute Union games. We feel that is the best way we can provide you guys value. I would say that we do maintain a gallery of our games, the Union games on the site. It's a limited selection. The number of games now has grown a little bit too large for us to put them all on the site. I would say that that we're more focused on exploring new platforms rather than building a web portal for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, great. I will be around. Oh, no, there's one more right there.
Thank you. How long does it take for you to put a game onto a new platform approximately right now?
That's a really good question. The actual adaptation process does not take that long. That's actually one of the things that we consider when we're evaluating a game. And it's why we evaluate the games, to look at how they technically are put together and whether or not there'll be complications in the porting process. If it's going to require an extensive amount of work, if it's going to take 2 months to port a game, that's something that we're cautious about. How fast we move is essentially dictated by when a platform launches. So, for example, with LG Smart TV, we can't launch the games until the platform is ready. We've been working with them for a very, very long time. So in that instance, I would say, well, the development cycle was pretty lengthy, but that was planned, that was expected. On the other end of the spectrum would be BlackBerry Playbook, which is a very different platform. It's a tablet. The games were ported over very quickly. I mean, we had Super Crossfire took less than a week to port over. Higher end games like Shadowgun obviously take a little bit longer. That one, it's well over a month of time. Really, what most of our time is spent on, the development is actually fairly quick. It's actually setting everything up, setting the relationship with the platform, setting that, getting that all in line, getting the games, figuring out which games we're going to move forward on, and then setting the schedule. Any last question? Great. I'll be around for a little bit, so if you have any questions, feel free to find me. And thank you again for showing up.